France, New Zealand, Hamilton. This Test series that has had a lot of. Well, one, I can't think of too many series, maybe bar the concurrent Lions tour, where there's such conjecture, debate, narrative, hysteria over selection. But there's been some pretty good rugby in there as well. How do
Been
we
a lot of carry on, hasn't there? Well, there was a lot of carry on, and it carried on, carried on.
carried on carrying on? One thing I will say before we talk about that, I thought they looked like they did a good job match day vibes at Hamilton, with the exception of the stadium DJ, who was
Oh
absolutely
my
horrific
God.
and it's a blight, and it's not just New Zealand. It is a blight on international sport more broadly. The
New
insistence
Zealand are bad though. New Zealand have been bad for a while.
they're
And
particularly
like,
bad with their music choices.
yeah, maybe that's why it stands out, but I'm not sure why they were playing the Wenger bus. Wenger boys, the Wenger bus is coming. I've got no idea what about a French line out in the 22 screams Wenger bus is coming, but
But Hey Baby was in there.
yeah, I
Um,
don't know. I also don't think that's because I think with New Zealand, like it's always like have other than Lord, has anything like this decade reached New Zealand yet? Bear in mind, Lord is from New Zealand as well, but it's like, why is it so
I do always
noughties?
remember.
Why is it so like 2001 school disco?
I do always
It's not
remember.
even like 2015 school disco.
There's Tim Cocker always. He definitely brought it up a couple of times years ago. It was like rugby from the future, music from the distant past. It
Yeah.
was the sort of summary. Which also, I think that my main gripe with it is that to me, it really puts a pin in moments of atmosphere, tension that build naturally around a game. And actually, this was pretty close for large swathes, and I feel like the Wenger bust does very little to kind of build that tension. But
There's
maybe
a time
that's
and a
my
place for the
problem.
Venga boys, but I don't think like post game, yeah, I'm there for it. But I don't think halfway through the first half or whatever it's necessary. But yeah, I think well, it's a weird one, wasn't it? Because France were at their strongest 15/23 of the series, and New Zealand were at their weakest. And I think previously or prior to some late dropouts, they didn't have a single Barrett in the starting lineup. And I'd love to know when the previous time that like it must be going back to like 2014, I reckon, because Bowden Barrett played a lot in like 2014, 2015. But when there was zero Barretts, who are three of the best players in the world, when was the last time that one of them wasn't in the starting lineup for New Zealand? And you've got kind of a few, even like on commentary, they were like about that McAllister bloke on the bench. They were like a few questions about his call up. I was like, oh, that's a bit different from the normally, oh, what a proud moment for him and his family, blah blah blah. But so it was definitely a weakened New Zealand side, as we kind of hinted at. They didn't have any reserve second rows. So Tuipulotu and Holland went the full 80. Yeah, it was just, I think, quite interesting to see a weakened side in the context of the whole displeasure about France not sending their strongest side. Found that quite ironic. But it was quite a weird game, and it was the closest game, I'd say, generally, of the three in
Yeah,
terms of the actual game. Obviously, the scoreline was much closer in the first test, but the kind of 10-point margin seemed a bit harsh, I think.
yeah, perhaps. I think
Not harsh, but like I guess it is what it is, but it's just like didn't feel that representative.
yeah, I think as you say, France were a lot better. I'm not sure they kind of had moments in attack, but it wasn't a particularly fluent game on either side. But I think what they did have a little bit was perhaps more than in the last couple of games was a little bit more control. Maybe
Yeah.
slightly ironically with Hastoy, we'd mentioned how we felt he might, if not open things up, offer a little bit more in attack, and he probably did, but it was more his control and the Garrick as well, which I thought stood out. And actually, the other two kind of older heads coming back into the backline, Fiku and Villiers, I think
Yeah,
made a real difference defensively and that kind of scrappiness. And they defended brilliantly, didn't they? I mean, the kind of tackle stats were pretty extraordinary by the end of the game. The tackle completion was excellent. So I think in that context, yeah, maybe 10 points is a little bit harsh with the kicker that actually they didn't offer a huge amount in the sort of second half by way of go forward, or at least a huge amount of penetration, bar a couple of loose balls that I think Guyton nearly got on the end of, didn't he? It was pretty
yeah.
good scrag tackle.
That's an
Um,
unbelievable cover tackle. That like it is. You'd expect Guyton to finish that, given he's a brilliant finisher and he's quick. But and he's got a decent amount of space. But it's a serious cover tackle. Like it is perfectly executed that from Geordie Barrett.
yeah,
And I think that
knows what
was
he's
all.
doing.
Yeah, I think that was the kind of thing for me is that France did have their opportunities, but it was almost like the kind of the real world class X Factor players had their moments for New Zealand because they were still playing. Like
Yeah,
Surveyor
and
gets Artie Surveyor gets the 5 meter jackal turnover penalty. Barrett obviously has the tackle and then has the fend and sets up the try. I think Jordan's pace was like a real threat, and he's obviously finished one try, possibly two, pretty easily because he's so quick. And then it's kind of the other experienced heads but had pretty good interventions like
hmm.
Mackenzie, Sevu Reese, Turpelotu, a few others. But yeah, those are the kind of ones that stand out for me. And it's just the kind of yeah, and Leonard Brown obviously scores the try. Like it's kind of you've got guys with over 50 tests
Just a
kind of
little
in
bit
the
of
in, yeah.
shimmering of class coming through in
Yeah.
what was quite, I thought it was bar the soundtrack was quite engrossing at points. As I say, if maybe not the sort of highest quality throughout, but made for quite an intriguing affair. Um,
Yeah.
I don't know if you want to do it right. I know we're going to talk about like a bit of a tour summary. Did you want to talk about anyone else who kind of came through this game, either in the red or in the black?
Yeah, I mean, so yeah, I think we do need to talk about it. So I had one 5 star player,
Oh yeah,
Mikel Guillard,
yeah,
and then I had plenty of 4 star players. I had Bulgarit, Oridu, Fisher, Brennan, Lagarek, Villiers, Fiku.
yeah.
I think that's it.
I think
The
that's
others,
fair.
like the other guys, and Tisserand, just because the man played 15 minutes with one arm and was absolutely belting people still. He looked in
Yeah,
so much pain when he landed on that line out, and he was absolutely whacking people after that. Like, I think
yeah,
possibly with the injured arm as well on some of them. Like, unbelievable. I think the guys in the back line, like Deporter, Atisogbe, they were fine. Like they just didn't have that much. Like Villiers, they didn't have that much. Villiers got 4 star, and Fika's got 4 star for their defensive work, not because of anything brilliant in attack. I thought Asogbe, in the very little space he was given, did some pretty magical things. I think we do need to talk about the guys that were below standard, though, because a lot of those names have kind of we'll go on to it in our kind of end of season review, end of tour review, but they were the guys that have done well elsewhere in the series. Firstly, wow, where do you want to start? Who have you? Who are you? Who are the knives out for, Richard?
they were knives out. Poor old Leo Barry had like a proper old school shocker, didn't he?
Do you know what? Like
Having also
watching it back, it's not. If you think of
the
it
first
on
half, he was a
balance,
bit better.
he's all right. Like it's just a
A couple of
couple of
big
moments that
errors,
really stand out. Yeah, yeah.
couple of big
And
errors,
the
and
try is so
he
bad.
has kind of. I feel like it's developing a little bit of a rep. I think that's why it's like we've seen him do it for Stade Francais as well. His first 10
What
minutes, he
was
was
it?
actually very.
Leon. What was it? Leo Burr, as in butter for like.
Oh,
But I
was
saw
it?
that as a comment for like when he fumbled it for like Butterfingers for when he fumbled one for Stade Francais.
Yeah, he actually his first 10 minutes he was very good cover and a very good up and under. And even the commentators were kind of like, oh, he had a bit of a shaky one last week. So I thought he after that it wasn't great and the ball followed him a little bit.
Ball
Um,
followed him. Yeah, I think that's how you'd word it. I don't know how much of it was like a France tactic though, of like it looked very exposed at the back,
yeah,
like one in the backfield. Because even
they
Atazogbe dealt
tried
with his issues pretty well, but
they
it still
tried
looked like they
Jordan.
found grass quite a lot.
The try Jordan goes in for, kind of like Barry was remonstrating quite a lot, and I wonder it looked. I don't know
He's
enough
absolutely
about
miles away
defensive.
from it.
He is, but would you not expect your 10 to be back there somewhere? The
Yeah,
gap
or
between
your
him and
nine
Atsogbe is
sweeping.
so big.
Well, Atazogbe's
Um,
up in the line, isn't he? And then there's no sweep
there's just
from
nothing.
fullback or scrum half.
Yeah,
It seemed to be part. I think because they were going so hard at the breakdown. I wonder if because they went at the breakdown pretty much every ruck it fell France. So I wonder if it was like a tactic to keep
but
men in the line and just
kind of
feels like too much of a
unusual.
gamble, and it feels like too much of a gamble for it not to be corrected. Like once
Yeah,
you've been burnt by it, and it was like it wasn't an isolated moment. I think surely you just you hook Barry, which he eventually did on about an hour mark, or you kind of think, we need to change this defensive system
yeah,
slightly.
yeah. I didn't have too many sort of full knives out in this. I think a few guys were. They were fine as we discussed throughout. I don't think they were full shockers. I think
Not Demba Bamba.
no, not. I mean, the scrum did wheel a bit, but I actually thought he had a
Mate, he
couple of
got
decent
cooked.
carries.
Like,
Yeah, but he's not the only. He's not the only one, is he? He's got cooked at the scrum time. But
but
it
he
is a
was,
bit
but
of an area.
it was on roller skates, and he gave away three penalties, and it just meant that any chance France had of getting back into the game was completely wiped out. I was
Yeah, but
watching with a mate, like,
I think they're
and he
props.
was
So
like, he came on screen. He's like, is he renowned as a good scrummager? And I was like, no, like it just flat out, no. There's no
yeah,
two ways about it. We saw it in the Argentina tour last year, and he's not. I know he's had a big injury layoff, but yeah, I think that's.
fair
It's not like
enough.
he wasn't up against. It's not like he's up against like Stephen Kitsoff and Oxenche. Like I know George Bauer is a good Super Rugby prop. Hasn't played that much at international level. It's
Hmm,
not like he's
perhaps. Who was packing behind him at that point when he came on?
that would have been Oridu
Oridu
initially,
and
and then Boscherton maybe.
okay, interesting. Because I was surprised at the rate it went back.
Oh no, sorry,
That's
he was
a
a tight head. He's a tight head, isn't he? So it would have
but is it in the
been
second row generally?
yeah. It would have been Roman Taufifenua.
Yeah, it's enough heft there.
That's a decent amount
Um,
of heft. Who also had a
yeah,
bit of a stinker. He actually played all right, but it's one of those ones like you've got that big moment that just stands out where he gets fended by Geordie Barrett. You could say it's really good play, but to pick off the slightly tired big bloke, but he hit the
he's only been
ease with
on
which he gets
15
fended.
minutes.
Yeah, yeah, like half an hour I think by then, but
Yeah,
it's just the
maybe.
ease with which he gets fended is just doesn't look good for a man that's 20 stone plus. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah. One thing I
Um,
will say on Bamber is he I kind of forgotten he was on this tour and his sort of place in the pecking order seems a bit odd.
we'll come
Like
on to
I
that, Richard.
kind of thought they'd moved away from him a little bit, but um, yeah. Who else do you want to bag while you're here?
Slimani, anonymous. I know there weren't any scrums really in the first half, but
But that's always going to be the case. He's like
yeah,
such a fine
specialist.
player in his own right, but he's a bit of a relic of a pop prop in that kind of
Yeah, yeah.
pure play scrummager mold.
Adocio, subpar, put himself about, but ultimately gave away a couple of free kicks and pens. So unfortunately for
But
him, he's getting at least one knife
I
from.
thought he was okay. I thought he looked like a real weak point before the tour, and I think he's
Yeah,
held up okay.
Yeah.
given his kind of lack of experience and also coming in from a little bit out of nowhere. And he's got
Yeah.
a good kind of slightly village Alan Jacobson look to him, which we need more of.
Yeah. Agree. Agree. That's the end of my knives. Anything you got anything else on that game?
No, not really.
Right,
Kind
I'm
of
about to send
apart
you.
from I felt slightly I was questioning New Zealand's approach ever so slightly when Ardy Surveyor looked to chip and chase out of off like basically his 5 meter line in the first 20 minutes. Thought, ooh, interesting approach, but it worked out for them in the end.
I think just a final word on France's defense because they did hold the ball up 4 times over the line, and just to shout out some of these stats. 275 tackles, which I think I saw is their second most ever. And
Really? Wow.
the other one was like years ago.
Yeah.
93% success rate. So Brennan 26 tackles, 2 missed. Guillard 24 tackles, 100%. Fisher 21 and a half, 100%. Fiku 20, 100%. Bosheton 17, 100%. Halangahu 16, 100%. Malaise 16, 4 missed. Already 15, 100%. It's just there's a
Decent
lot.
effort
Tisserand 800%, but
with one arm.
seven of them with one arm, I reckon.
Yeah.
Um, right, I'm about to send you a file
Oh,
that
God.
you can. It's got the depth chart, Richard.
Oh, wow.
If you are watching on YouTube, you'll see these, but I'll do my best not to kind of list through names. If you go to France depth chart, July 2025, Richard.
Oh, access denied.
Oh, you
Wow, look at this. All right.
right. So
Jesus.
my first point is so there's some color coding. You can see there that so those ones in blue are anyone that is played on this tour. And as you can see, there are very, very few, arguably two positions where someone was first choice on this tour and went into it as first choice. So Guillard did start the last couple of Six Nations games at tight headlock.
Yeah.
And I am going to say that despite the fact he didn't play in the Six Nations, I do still think Gael Ficker is probably first choice
I
at
think so.
13. And they have stayed. And then all the other first choice players in the depth chart have remained unchanged.
Yeah.
So while their stock has risen and they've cemented those places down, you haven't had anyone kind of, you've got partly because a lot of them are Toulouse players, but Gross, Marchand, Antonio, Flamont, Boudon, Cross, Aldrit, Dupont, Luku, Entamac, Bielbiere, Peno, Ramos. No one's kind of overtaking them. I also think that you can see this. There aren't that many that have played that have kind of cemented themselves as second choice.
Yeah.
I think the second row, so Orido, I thought what he's in the team for, like the set piece, like the restarts, he was much tidier than he was in the Six Nations. The line out worked this week. So either him or Josh Brennan is probably the next in line behind Flamont at loose headlock. I don't think they'll try Rumat again.
Yeah.
Other than that, the
Maybe.
centres or the outside centres, because literally all of them toured. So Deporter is probably now second choice 13, I would say, and Barassi is the little bit of the faller. But you guys like Villiers and Atasogbe were second choice and probably stay second choice. And they come out of this tour pretty well. But I think just before we dive into the actual proper depth chart generally, do you think this tour has changed anything for France going forward?
Uh, Not massively, no. I think I agree with that kind of appraisal. I think the one real standout is Guillard, right? But I suppose particularly at 8. And I think they do seem to be quite liking, everyone seems to be quite liking Mayafu off the bench. I can see why. I do genuinely think Guillard's performances both at lock in the Six Nations and now kind of as the real standout and picked out by kind of all and sundry, including the New Zealand commentators, as the outstanding player in the France side. I
Yeah,
genuinely think if they go Flamand Meafu, yeah, Gautier loves his boys, doesn't he? But I think he is knocking on the door, or should be in my book, at that 8 jersey with Aldrit. Like I really think he's been outstanding. I think he is. I think we probably both agree that Aldrit hasn't been at his best for a little bit, although there were a few
not his,
glimmers
he was
towards
kind
the
of an
end of
8 out of 10, wasn't he,
last season.
last year? But I
But I
think like
think, but I think
4 years
Giart
ago
has
he was a 10
now,
out of 10, wasn't he?
yeah, but I think Giart has now sustained such a level in two positions that he is, there's an argument that he has to be in your best pack, whether that be in second row or at number 8. And
Yeah,
if Aldrit hasn't been quite as, then, I don't think, yeah, I definitely see that as an option. I think the quality he sustained. Um, I think there were glimmers that if, depending on how long it takes, they clearly like the Garrick, don't they? And Luku had
yeah.
a brilliant second half to the season. I wonder if the Pont is still out, as he probably will be come
He's
the
coming back end of November,
end of
supposedly.
November.
So he
So
won't be
post
there.
autumn internationals,
Yeah.
whether Le Garrick might sneak in ahead of Maxime Luku. Not because I think he's a better player at this point, but they really like him. Um, Hopefully playing at La Rochelle might take him to another level as well. But otherwise, I'm kind of with you. I don't really see. I think maybe feels a bit harsh, but I think we knew some of these guys that are a little bit interchangeable at 6 and 7. I think like your
So I've tried to
Fishers, Giroux.
delineate it as your blind side. They've kind of got a formula of your blindside flanker is your physicality and work rate guy. Your open side is your line out athlete. So like
Okay,
a Julien Bonner back in the day. And then your number 8 is basically your one and only ball. Well, not one and only, but your
primary
primary
ball
ball carrier.
carrier.
Like think of the work that Guillard got through and the work that
Yeah,
Aldrit typically got through. I've put Boudon at 6 and Cross at 7. They lined up in the other jerseys in the Six Nations, but I would say Cross is your line out athlete and all round the park athlete, and Boudon is your physicality
yeah,
and work rate man. But they're
hit
very
people.
interchangeable. It becomes more apparent when you look down it and you've got Jegu as your reserve open side, Jalonch as your reserve 6. Like it's the kind of that sort of
Yeah,
delineation, I think.
yeah, and I think
Guys
some of
like
these guys like
Tisseron and
Fisher,
Fisher is quite a
Tisserand.
nice. Yeah, that's how you would see it. So you've got your work rate guy, your kind of typical flanker with Fisher, and your kind of French style jumping line out man at 7 in Tisseron.
Yeah,
That's kind of
I
how
just
he's
and I think
lined
on
them up.
this depth chart, like looking at the blind sides, for instance, so Fischer, Boschiton, um, then below that we've maybe got Nucci, Gazzotti, Castro, Ferrer. I think all of those guys, like maybe they haven't broken through in a French shirt yet. I think all of them have far more ingredients and will offer far more in a French shirt. And I think
Yeah,
that as good as like someone like a Fischer was, and he was outstanding, and he's a great pickup for Bayern, and yeah, it's kind of heart and effort and grunt over like game breaking, and maybe that's a slightly kind of
yeah,
harsh
yeah.
analogy, but that's yeah. I think we know there's loads of those guys in France, and they can mix it physically.
Yeah, you can see there, Rich, that I've done a kind of stock rising, stock falling, and we'll come on to kind of winners and losers. But I've put those guys that you referenced there, the 21-year-olds, Nucci, Gazzotti, Castro Ferreira, is going down, partly because they're all injured and they didn't play. And I think there's a premium on guys, or there's a benefit to guys that have played. I think in this, you just getting yourself in the front in the shop window for like a Fischer, a Boschton. I think Nucci is probably a better player than both of them, but he hasn't played, so he kind of falls down the pecking order. Similarly, kind of other guys elsewhere. So like Gael Dreyan, who arguably should have been in this, Roman Buros, who started against the All Blacks in November, but he's fallen down the pecking order. I think he didn't come on tour,
Yeah,
so therefore he's not. I think if some of these Toulouse and Bordeaux players, if Galtier rated them, he would have called them, because we saw that with Barassi and Deporter and others. But someone like Maxime Lamotte, who lots of people are big fans of, like that he obviously doesn't think he's that much better than Borgeret or Barlow, so therefore Borgeret and Barlow cement their places as the kind of next cabs off the rank. Similarly, Cyril Cazo, that suggests that to me that he's quite far down the pecking order, because they could have called him up, like if they rated him. Do you know what I mean? Whereas
Yeah,
Boschton, they did call him up, and therefore it's a good sign that Gautier likes him.
yeah, yeah. You might be right. Just looking at fullback, bottom and falling, Melvin Jaminet.
Well, yeah, because he didn't get called up. So
Well, I think he's been pretty much blacklisted, hasn't he?
I think we kind of got confirmation, because we had Domon. Well, Tiberian got toured but didn't play because he got injured. Domon got called up. We saw that Gaban Law got called up to the England 15 game. Yeah, so I think Jaminet can kiss goodbye to his French international dreams. You're nothing controversial about the other 15s there. The second choice riser.
Yeah, no, I don't think Sogbe is controversial at all. I think he's looked.
I think if Ramos plays 10, you now have to play Atasogbe at 15. I think he has to be ahead of Barry, because not just on that one game, he was excellent in that first game, and I think he confirmed what
He's
we
quite
hoped
assured,
he might
isn't
confirm. He looks he's so error free and classy, and he's just a superstar. Like, he's just way smoother than Barry, I think. Whether he's the right wing, left wing, or fullback, I think he's got to be the next cab off the rank for those three positions,
yeah.
really.
Well, I think given that Buros hasn't been picked, 'cause I do think he is. I think he's an outstanding player and has had a rank season with injuries, but they're very different profiles, aren't they? And I think Sogbe is far more rounded. Yeah,
Far more X
interesting.
factor.
Because I don't think because Ntamack and Jalabert have both had operations, haven't they? I don't know how severe they are, but could we be going into the autumn series in a few months? Ramos at 10 again, maybe that opens it up properly for Atasogbe.
Do you want to go risers and fallers then?
Well,
We do winners and losers, as we tend to.
Winners and losers. Oh, well, winners, I think Mikel Guillard, we've mentioned him a million times, cemented as a really high quality second row, 8, wherever you want to play him.
Yeah.
Versatile, plaudits from all over the place. But probably my big winner. I think, as much as I sort of said that I'm not convinced others won't leap him, I think Alexander Fischer was very good throughout, and particularly in that first test, actually, when it felt very backs to the wall. And I don't think anyone was expecting that much. It was kind of fairly heroic stuff. I think the other winners would be quite a lot of the guys who haven't toured, to be honest, as you say. People have not been leapfrogged. Losers, say Barry's gone down the pecking order, and I don't know about losers, but I do think that, I don't know, someone like a Joris Sigons, just how many chances is he going to get? And there are openings at 10 for fly half, with Ntamack's injury problems, always a bit dicey about Jalabert. And I feel like, I don't know, someone that kind of control.
Not a fantastic injury record either, has he?
No, but he's also got the fact that Gautier doesn't really trust him. So I think there's an opening there, and I don't think even Hastor, you had quite a good game on Saturday. I don't think either of them. I'd say really
Hastor's stock has risen, though. I think that the way he started off a bit shaky, but I think the way he grew into the game management, I quite liked the drop goals, even though he missed the second one. I think that was a good option. I think that suggests to me that he's a kind of can be trusted, I think, to kind of counter your point, or he's going to be trusted certainly more than Sigons, and Birdo didn't get any game time, which doesn't bode well for him. And I thought he might kind of get quite a bit of game time ahead of Sigons in this tour. I'd say my big riser is a player that didn't play, and it's someone like Tavita Tatafu because I don't think no one grabbed hold of that jersey. The fact that the starter in the two strongest selections is a 36-year-old in Slimani. No one else grabbed it behind him. I think Paul Malez is a winner to kind of come from Pro de Deux.
Went okay, didn't they?
Went okay. Did like showed that he can play at this level. He wasn't perfect, but he was decent. Um, I actually think weirdly, I think Pierre-Louis Barrassi's a bit of a loser in this one.
Yeah,
Not because he played badly, but he only played the one game and got injured. But I think Fiku was so instrumental in this tour that Fiku has to play. Moefana was the best player in the
standout
Six
back probably,
Nations.
wasn't he? Yeah,
Yeah, and I think Deporter showed enough in the games that he played that if they need to, they'll go Fiku at 12 and him at 13. And then he obviously has the club combination with
yeah,
Moefana. So I think Barassi drops down. They clearly like Gaetan. I would currently rank him below Barassi in the depth chart, but I do think he they like him, which isn't doesn't bode well for Barassi.
yeah.
Again,
They get him in the 23 as well, don't they?
plays wing. There's a lot of Toulouse guys. There's a few Toulouse guys that I think it's a bit unfair that they play for Toulouse. They just fall down the pecking order just because they are never available for these. They don't get these opportunities. But
Yeah,
there we go. I think my big takeaway is France are struggling at tight head. I think they've got a bit of an issue
massively.
at tight head,
I think it's a real problem.
and that's the
A
only
real problem.
glaring hole for me,
Yeah,
other than
it's
possibly 10.
arguably the one position you can't have a whole lot going
Yeah,
into major international games, isn't it? It's sort of ironic, really. Yeah, we'll see. Anything else on this slightly ill-fated but intriguing France New Zealand tour?
hopefully see a stronger side next time round.
Yeah, I think we can both agree with that.